Namaskar everyone, this is my second time trying to start Desi Talk. Let me know if you can hear me. I hope you can hear me. I am trying to... Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Is it working? Monita, I see you. Can you just let me know if you can hear me now? Okay, awesome. So happy. So the first time didn't work, but the second time is working. Very weird. Okay, so today we'll be talking about vaccines and the science behind vaccines. Welcome to Desi Talk again. And we're going to address some of the misinformation and misconceptions surrounding vaccines. I know there's a lot of questions around this topic. And we're waiting on my co-host, Yashu, to see if she's going to be able to join. I know she's in Florida and they're having a storm, so she is having some technical difficulties. We'll have to wait. Oh, she's not able to join. I don't know what's happening. Oh, awesome. Yeshu's here. Okay, so, hey, yeah, we've been waiting for you. I'm having some technical difficulty myself, so I'm glad that you're here. Let me invite you in. So, yeah, today's Desi Talk is awesome, and we have a great person that we'll be interviewing, so I'm very happy. Hi, Yashu.
Hey. All right, we good. We live. The lights are back on.
I'm technically on my end right now.
On your end or my end? Because
on my end, I've been having trouble on my end. Okay, everything is working now. I've been having a lot of issues today. I don't know what is going on with my phone. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that we get to talk about this topic. And I'm so glad that we have this person that we're going to get to interview who is so prolific. And she is always writing for India Currents, but we finally get to use her for the thing that she does best. So I'm very, very happy about this. What do you think about vaccines? Have you been vaccinated, Yashu? I think we talked about this before.
Yes, I have. I am vaccinated. Okay. I did the Johnson & Johnson one-time shot, which I know not many people did. But that was the one that was accessible to me here, given the constraints of, having to drive all the way to Jacksonville to go get it and whatnot. So it was an interesting journey. But which one did you get?
I got the Moderna vaccine, which was the 2-time one, and it killed me. I shouldn't say that lightly, but I just felt like I was actually dead for like 3-4 days. So I had some of the worst symptoms, and it'll be good to understand from the person that we'll be interviewing today why and what, who is getting affected by these different side effects and why they're happening, and just a little bit more, because I do think there's a lot of lack of knowledge around vaccinations, and with the CDC guidelines changing so much, it's so hard to know what's real and what's not. So with that, are you okay with me introducing our interviewee?
Absolutely, and I've sent the pin in the comments, so y'all can definitely tap in to see who we got on board today. I'm so excited. Again, my name is Yashu Rao, here with India Currents for Desi Talk, y'all. Here every Tuesday for you guys. And this month we are talking about new beginnings, science and technology, of course, starting with the medical sciences, talking about the most relevant topic right now, which is COVID-19. And again, I'm so honored to be sharing this space with my amazing co-host.
Hi, I'm Srishti Prabha, the managing editor at India Currents, and I'm very happy to have Yashu as my co-host. And we are doing our best to keep you guys engaged and informed. So if you ever have any ideas of things you'd like us to talk about, please let us know. Yashu, you dropped the pin in the chat, but I don't see it. So if you can put it in again so I can pin that, that'd be really great.
Awesome. And you might have to scroll down a little bit using your finger, and you might be able to see it. If not, I hope can viewers see it? Are viewers able to see it? Let us know. We're having a lot of tech issues. Weather has been like haywire out here in Florida. So that hasn't been helping. At any moment, if I go pitch black, it's because we lost electricity. I
Yeah,
gave Srishti a fair warning.
she did.
But I
I
think
told people that we're having these technical difficulties right now on both ends. I don't see her pin still. It could be my issue. So we'll just keep going, and then if you drop the pin again, I'll try to pin that. So I'm going to introduce. Yeah, see people. I don't think the pin is showing up on your end. I don't know why. It might just be slow internet. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our interviewee. Her name is Monita Soni, and she is the president of Prime Path PC, a diagnostic pathology laboratory in Decatur, Alabama. Monita Soni has served the Tennessee Valley community for over 22 years. She is a spokesperson for the College of American Pathologists and is active in creating public awareness of the disease process through local and national media. She writes letters to the editor in local newspapers and periodicals on topics like infectious disease, breast, colon, and prostate cancer. She has recorded hometown radio and TV interviews on topics like how to prevent MRSA infections, tick bite, prostate cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer in both English and in Hindi. She is a recipient of NIH and ACS Fellowship Awards and has received her clinical and research training at the Memorial Sloan Kettering, Cornell, Vanderbilt, Baylor, and the list goes on. So I'm very excited.
Amazing person coming on our live today. I'm so excited. Are y'all excited? If you are, go ahead and drop in the comments below. Show her some love. Show her some love, everybody. Drop in the comments below.
Yeah, and she is also prolific, like I said earlier, writer for India Currents, and it's not even on science. Hi, Monita.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi.
I'm just enjoying your general energy.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Soni, Dr. Monita Soni. We are so thrilled to have your presence here on our live, educating all of our viewers, all those people who are here. And for the audience out there, we have got a valuable episode today talking about COVID-19 and vaccinations. So use the arrow icon to invite everybody who you think would benefit from this episode. Be sure to share this as well. But again, thank you so much for joining us. Please let everyone know, we got the bio, but we'd love to hear from you. Tell us who you are, what you do, where are you located right now?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think it's a very important topic. And ever since COVID hit, I've been worried about the pandemic like all of you. And I've been writing a lot for several periodicals, including India Currents. I'm a pathologist. Pathology is a study of disease, and pathologists are doctors who study disease. I have done all different disciplines in pathology, like clinical pathology, microbiology, infectious disease. But right now, in my diagnostic laboratory, I myself diagnose cancer. So it's solid tumors, breast cancer, colon cancer, and leukemias, lymphomas. I also oversee a large clinical laboratory in Decatur, Alabama, which is part of Huntsville Hospital now. And so we do COVID-19 testing there as well. So that's a little bit about me. And if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer. I think we are discussing the vaccines today, isn't it? Yes.
Yes. So let's get into the vaccines because there's so much information and it's hard to parse out like what is, important, what is misinformation, what is irrelevant, So the first thing I kind of wanted to talk about, which is very basic level, what is the science behind vaccines? Like, what is a vaccine? Because I know there's more than one kind of vaccine. Flu vaccines are different than the vaccines we're getting right now. So if you can just kind of go into that a little bit, that'd be really helpful.
So our body has an ability to recognize infection. And it recognizes infection by mounting an immune response. The immune response is divided into two arms, T cell and B cell. So the B cells, they produce antibodies, and the T cells fight infection, which is inside your cells. So there are two types of T cells, helper and cytolytic T cells. So the vaccines are nothing but some kind of virus particle, either live, attenuated, or it's protein in some form, which is introduced into the human body in such a way that it does not cause rip-roaring infection, but it just gently nudges the immune system to form antibodies and to recognize it, so that in case the virus comes at us, we are prepared for it. So that is the basic science behind vaccine. And I'm sure there are so many Indian people, whoever are joining, some of them have done cell biology. So that might be just teaching to the choir. But for the others who don't understand, I just wanted to tell you that that's how it works.
Yeah, that's us. But also, can you go into like, I know that the flu vaccine seems to be like a dose of the flu so that your body has an immune response, like it learns how to fight that
Yeah.
particular disease, versus what we're getting for COVID seems to be an mRNA vaccine, which is different. So can you just go into that a little bit as well?
Yes. So we are familiar with protein-based vaccines. So the flu vaccine, some of the polio vaccines, and measles, mumps, rubella, those are protein-based vaccines, and we're familiar with that. And the mRNA vaccine technology is very new. It's not that it's not been studied at all, where rabies virus is concerned and CMV virus. We've had this technology in the works, but we've not commercialized it. So when the pandemic hit, it actually hit in the early part of 2019, but it was probably around even in 2018, and we were not able to recognize that. So that at that time, the scientific community was very afraid that this could rapidly become a worldwide phenomenon, because this virus, although it is a coronavirus, which we are familiar with, which is belongs to a RNA virus family, but this was different from the other coronaviruses, that those particles actually went and launched into your lungs and caused a severe disease over there in the lungs, even before we knew it. So that is why they use this mRNA technology, because mRNA is very easily reproducible. And the methodology which is used for mRNA, it's pretty standardized in all laboratories. So it was easy for FDA to approve these mRNA viruses. Whereas some of the protein-based vaccines, so some of the protein-based vaccines are coming out now, like J&J, and also Novavax is coming out. And some of the protein-based viruses in India, so they took a longer time to develop. So for FDA to be able to give check mark to those particular vaccines would have been a longer process, because they would have to see each and every step. So this takes us back to what is mRNA and what is a protein. So all of us in our nuclei, we have something called the DNA on the chromosomes. Okay. So those DNA will code for different genes, and those genes determine what proteins we are supposed to make for ourselves as well as to fight infection. So mRNA is nothing, but it's a very small transient molecule, which is like a half a strand. It goes and anneals or sticks on the DNA. So, and then it comes out. It doesn't remain on the DNA. It comes into the cytoplasm, and then it goes into something which is a ribosome, which is like a factory which produces protein. And it tells the ribosomes to make protein. So that is the difference between the mRNA and the protein-based viruses. So in this case, like Moderna and then Pfizer and AstraZeneca, the mRNA virus vaccines, they were introduced in like a lipid envelope or like a butter ball, very nano butter ball, and they were injected directly into our muscle. And so most of the mRNA went inside the muscle cell. And from that cell, it went in the cytoplasm of the cell. It went into the ribosome, and then it stayed there for a very small period of time, say for 1 day or like maximum 2 days. And then the proteins were made, and those proteins were expressed on the outside of the muscle cell. And then the immune system was able to recognize those proteins and mount the response, like the antibodies, which is the B cells, and the T cell. So that was a difference. So it took like, I mean, I heard that Srishti said that, she was very sick. So that was actually, if you did you have fever?
Yeah.
So you had fever and you had body ache and myalgia, anything.
Yeah, just fully fatigued. Like I couldn't really move. So yeah, that it was just like fever, headache, and full body. And then I got the COVID rash also.
You did get the rash also.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that means that the body, that your immune system is actually robust. So it is responding to the vaccine. So like if you go to a gym and you work out and you don't get sore at all, so it shows that you really didn't use your muscle. So in this case, when you got the vaccine, the body really responded to it. It recognized that vaccine. Maybe there was a slight chance that you exposed previously to the to the virus and you did not know. So that is why the response came like.
Oh,
So
and so
how about
Yashu
a
didn't.
situation where, say, the person didn't really show too much response? What does that mean?
That means if you didn't get anything, after that, that means your body is still, you might have gotten some fever and you might not have been able to record that fever. You really didn't take your temperature, right? So you might have still responded to the vaccine and antibody production would have started. It's only if you check your antibody titer now after the vaccine, you would know that whether your body is really responding to the vaccine or not. So that's why we sometimes say that follow the people who have been vaccinated and see if the titer, like I did my own titer, my daughter's titer, some of my friends' titer, and we have high titers against the against the virus. So the vaccine actually doesn't totally prevent you from infection. It prevents you from severe disease. So the vaccine, that's why they tell that people, even those who have been who have had COVID and they've had a milder form of COVID. That's the reason why the public health officials are telling them to go ahead and get the vaccine, because we do not know how much antibody titer they have, because it's so variable. Someone would have had 1 and the other one would have 100. So in order to get a homogeneous level of immunity, herd immunity, that's why it is advised from the public.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, so the difference, I don't even know if I would call it a difference, but it sounds like, so the mRNA vaccine is essentially creating like it's sending that DNA to create that protein versus the protein based vaccine, which is already just inserting the protein in. Is that the difference? Like one is immediate and one is like just telling the body to make that protein instead?
That's correct. That's correct. So all the vaccines are using one particular antigen, which is the spike protein. And the spike protein is actually a triangular shaped protein. It's a trimer. It's the same thing 3 times. And so that mRNA also is against that particular spike protein. And the vaccines which have the protein, for example, let's see this recombinant Novavax vaccine, which has come out and everyone is talking about now. It's a recombinant nanoprotein vaccine. So what they have done is that particular protein they've taken from the virus, they've introduced it into another virus, then they've infected that virus into moth cell cultures, and then they've taken that protein from that, and then that they are injecting,
So what is the benefit
of
mRNA versus the protein? Because the flu vaccine is something we get every year and it's something that is the protein, and then you're saying like this technology's kind of been around, so is it because it's delayed, or what's the difference and why?
It's the same thing. They are both going to give same kind of benefits.
Yeah.
The only reason why mRNA was introduced earlier, because the protein, see, it's still taking so much time. J&J also came out later. Novavax is still not out. They are doing trials. It takes longer for FDA to approve of each and every step to make that protein, because more steps are involved. And you have to understand that this is not only being done in one laboratory. It's done
Mhm.
several laboratories which have contracted with the main lab.
Right.
Have to look at those processes everywhere. So that's the
So
only
we have a
is
question.
provide the same kind of immunity.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question from our viewers. We had someone here ask, is it safe for children to get vaccinated?
Okay, so right now, according to the CDC and FDA guidelines, the vaccine has been approved from 12 to 18, 12 to 15 years old. And they are studying there aren't that many side effects. There have been some reported cases of some myocarditis, but still they are much better compared to some of the really strong multi-system disease some of these youngsters are showing with COVID infection. But whereas
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned, really young children, less than 12 years of age, they are still studying it. And I do not know right now what the data shows, and I'll be happy to talk about that later.
Absolutely.
That's
And
a
that
good
actually
question.
gives me a follow-up question here. I remember at the beginning, kind of during the beginning stages of COVID, they had kind of said, oh, this only is affecting people, above a certain, age bracket. Is that still true, or do you feel like the virus has changed over time, or has, statistics changed over time, and then also are children kind of still being affected, or are they like at risk,
Mm-hmm.
similarly?
So children have a better, stronger immune response compared to this particular virus compared to the adults. That data came out early on. And so that's the reason why they were, trying to protect the population, which is more at risk, like the older people with diabetes, with heart disease,
Mm-hmm.
smokers, cancer patients who are already immunocompromised. So at that time, the vaccine doses also were not available easily. And FDA had to do a very large study to really establish the efficacy and safety of the virus. So 70,000 people or more were studied. And then their immediate response as well as safety after 2 months were studied. These people were followed up. So that's the reason they were talking about that, it's better for those people to get.
Mm.
And if you feel that you are healthy, that's why they were telling all these young people, like all of you, like 30-year-olds, it's okay, you will not get it. And some people were going everywhere and trying to spread it. But then you have to think of, this is a virus, okay? So it's a very small nanoparticle, and this virus doesn't settle like the flu virus in our nose and eyes. It goes directly into the lungs, and then it causes a very bad disease in some people, because what it does actually, which many people did not understand, was that it is actually suppressing one aspect of our immune response, which is called the interferon. So it suppressed it. So for few days, you did not know whether you even had the virus, and then suddenly it dysregulated. I mean, it derailed your immune system, and then it flared up. That's what
Mm.
happened in India. I mean, see how many people they thought that they were immune, and
Yeah.
it came later to India and to other countries, and hit them right before the vaccine was available. What a tragedy, So
I actually have a question about that. So the initial COVID response and like what happened in India was that people weren't getting sick at the same rates and they weren't as deathly sick if they were sick. So do you think this change was just the like the variant that they were being infected with was just more dangerous, or were there other things that you think contributed to the rate of it rising so fast?
I think the Delta variant, which has been reported in India, which is also becoming a predominant strain already in Britain, and it is in the next 6 weeks is going to be the most dominant strain even in the US, is
Mm-hmm.
highly contagious, and it spreads more rapidly. And so that particular strain actually did them in at that time,
Mm-hmm.
because initially they probably had some kind of immunity, which they thought that was protecting them, and also the timing and so many factors in that
Mm-hmm.
population, which was kind of helping to keep the virus at bay. And maybe they were not reporting, or all this under reported cases,
Yeah.
graphic
And we
structure
we
of.
have a question here from our audience.
Yeah.
We have what percent of vaccinated people is required to achieve herd immunity? And then another question, which I just want to read is, if you have been vaccinated, in your opinion, should we stop wearing masks or in crowded places, or is it too early? These are the two questions our audience is asking.
The second question first, that is that wearing a mask. Okay, so you should use science. I mean, I don't practice infectious disease, but I've been listening to all the infectious disease briefings, public health briefings, but you have to use science as well as common sense. Okay, so this disease spreads droplets, and it's a small particle and it's mutating. So if you don't have to go somewhere and don't have to hang out with several people who don't tell you whether they are vaccinated or not vaccinated, then it's better to wear a mask. For example, on a flight, in crowded places, it's good to wear a mask. I mean, it helps you. So many other things like allergies and flu. We've had a relatively good flu season this time. So that should, so just use your common sense and judgment and wear it in crowded places.
Yeah, my one point was that also what you said earlier is that the vaccine doesn't prevent you from getting COVID. It just prevents you from not getting really sick from COVID. So I think like wearing a mask it's still good because you're still not going to get exposed to something that you probably might have respiratory aftermath effects of, like you just don't know. And so actually one of my questions was going to be like, how do you explain these like conflicting CDC guidelines with, if I am thinking with my common sense, it doesn't really make sense to not wear a mask. It doesn't really make sense to be in a space with a bunch of people that aren't vaccinated, and we're not going to reach herd immunity in the US, which is something that's already been reported. So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so let me tackle the second part of the question. Herd immunity, you need 70 to 90% of adults or population vaccinated, and we only have 43% till today.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it's less than 20%, I think, still. So, but wearing of masks, in places because we are not going to get herd immunity. That is your first part of your question. So the variants are coming, okay? So the Delta is going to be the most predominant variant, but the vaccines which you have received are supposed to be good in preventing you from getting really sick with that Delta variant, okay? So that is one thing that you have to remember. Second thing is that this virus will keep on mutating, right? So far, whatever variants are coming out, we know that the vaccines are providing a good number of safety or protection against these things. But we don't know, we have to keep on following the science, and we have to keep on following the epidemiological curves. We have to keep on following what new research is coming out from different countries. Mm-hmm. That is why the CDC keeps changing the guidelines. CDC is here, and the government and the scientific community is here to help you from the public health standpoint. No one can really tell you individually what you should do or what you should not. You are grown-up adults, and that is the reason. That's what I tell my friends who ask me, okay, why? We want your opinion. I mean, it doesn't really mean anything to me. You are a scientist, an adult person. You have looked at the data. As long as you don't listen to conspiracy theories, you should be able to make a decision on your own. But from the standpoint, it's important that we should get vaccinated so that we reach herd immunity, and it becomes easier for us to mingle, because after all, everyone is like dying to have these like mega get-togethers and stuff like that, which I really am personally not very much. But
hey, Gavin Newsom just California is fully open today, as of today. And he just posted this thing. I'm really happy, but he's like, you don't need to wear a mask. You can go do whatever you want. And I'm like, I feel like to some degree it should be tone it down slightly because I am happy that businesses can be back and we can go, but you should still be cautious. You should still be careful. And it's much like the flu, and people don't know very much. I mean, people who maybe read about the Spanish flu and how it went through the population for 3 years, but a lot of people aren't reading that information, aren't really thinking about it. And it's like, this isn't just going to go away. The flu is still here many, 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 many years later, you know? So it's
Exactly.
one of
Exactly.
those things which is, oh, someone put another question for you, by the way. Can pregnant women get the vaccine?
Yeah, I think the latest data show that the pregnant women can get the vaccine. And also, difference between the flu immunity and COVID immunity. So if you get the flu, I have several friends who never take the flu vaccine, and they say when we get it, we'll do it, you know. But we as physicians are required to get the flu vaccine when we work in the hospital. So
Mhm.
the flu immunity, I was reading, the immunity from flu, when you get the flu, lasts longer than the immunity from the virus, from the vaccine. But it's not the same for COVID. The
Mm.
immunity you get from the vaccine is a little bit more uniform rather than the immunity you get from getting the disease, you know.
Mm.
So, I mean, use common sense. I think hand washing, like Fauci kept saying, hand wash, hand wash, hand wash. I really believe, I mean, he washed his hand like 75 times a day in the beginning before he got. So we have to keep on washing hands. And then if you are in a really close environment in which you think that there may be people who, you know, may be sick or, you know, may be compromised, immunocompromised, and may not be vaccinated, then you wear mask. I mean, mask is only going to protect you from coming in contact with somebody who's like really coughing in your face or who has viral
Mhm.
particles distributing in the environment.
Right. And so
And I
with
know
that,
here in Florida, sorry, I
no,
was
go
just saying,
ahead.
like
Go
here
ahead.
in Florida, because I definitely want to mention that too, right? We have been mask free for a very long time, and I
Wait,
am for
really? When did you go mask free? Sorry, I didn't know that
Yeah,
Florida was mask free.
probably
I know.
a couple of months ago. I think it was
Oh.
maybe a quarter in April,
Mhm.
if not earlier than that. So it was quite some time now that we've been mask free, and I'm pro mask and pro vaccine, but I'm in a community of people, like a lot of my friends and members of my community here believe in the conspiracy theory that the government is trying to inject people with,
Oh, yeah.
chips and stuff like
Wait,
that. So
yes. Can I ask this question really fast?
Yeah, yeah.
Because this is a good question. Um, what are some misconceptions about the vaccine that you have heard from the Desi community? Like what Yashu is talking about? What are some of these theories and how can we debunk them? What are you hearing?
So they cannot genetically change your DNA or genetically engineer you or make you into a hybrid or something. Some of my friends have been telling, oh, we'll just give the vaccine to our dad to see if he grows a horn or something. That's not going to okay. Is not going to go into your genetic code at all. It's just a transient message like a Snapchat message which will dissolve. That's what the science so far is telling me. Okay,
That's a good analogy.
some
Yeah.
but and the other thing is that you'll have long-term side effects or there'll be a chip or something. No. I personally don't believe that. I don't think anyone scientific would believe that, but I cannot fight every conspiracy theory. You have to use your own judgment.
So the one that I've heard from the Desi community the most is that the research and the vaccines haven't gone through enough of the the guidelines that normally you would go through to then proceed and give it to humans after all these trials, and so they won't get the vaccine. They're like, I don't feel comfortable getting the vaccine. It's not tested well. I don't know what the aftermath of it is. So what would you say to someone like that?
So the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 studies, as I told you, FDA really tested more than 70,000 people, tested them for 2 months. And that the only reason is that they use the mRNA technology rather than the protein-based technology, because the protein-based technology needed long time, like years. But people have worked like day and night trying to make it. And mostly everybody who is a scientist and who is, who understands the significance of this pandemic and who's lived through Spanish flu, some people who have seen that, and some people who have seen what is happening in India and how they're scrambling to vaccinate their population right now and spreading the doses apart so that they can reach some herd immunity. They should understand that there is science behind the vaccine and should not worry about it. Okay, that's all I can say.
And I think it's also important to kind of mention that I was reading an article that had mentioned that, you know, with this Delta variant that is, you know, kind of sweeping across India and everything, that, you know, vaccines like Johnson and Johnson and Moderna are effective. I read somewhere, and again, I could be wrong, and this is why misinformation, I think this is something very important that I have to say. People pass misinformation. So when you are getting your information, please get it from reliable resources such as CDC, FDA. Get it from not Facebook,
A
newsfeed,
doctor, like
Snapchat.
our person here.
Right. Tap into resources such as Dr. Monita Soni here, who are studying this, right, and are coming from a space of science, right? But again, I just want to take a minute. I read somewhere that was saying that the AstraZeneca vaccine was not as effective for this Delta variant. And I kind of want to know if that is true. Again, I could be wrong, but if that is true, why is it that some vaccines are effective and some are not? Is it because they might be made differently?
And can I add to that question one more thing? Can you just delve into efficacy a little bit? Because I know there's some misunderstandings around what efficacy means. Like, you know, this vaccine is more effective or it has better efficacy than something else. So just to answer her question, and then that's the second portion.
Okay, they're still, when they say that it's not as efficacious as the other one, that means they're still studying it. You know, they rely this efficacy data based on their studies. Okay, so study going on in UK, study in US, somewhere in Brazil, somewhere in India, all over the world, Israel, you know, everyone is doing their studies. So whatever data is collected and at whatever time they present it to you, you know. So don't worry about it. Maybe in another week they will say this is equally effective. You know, they haven't studied. Okay, so that's what I personally think. Second thing is that efficacy means that the level of antibodies. They check the level of antibodies and then they study them in vitro. Means in vitro means in the lab setting to see whether they are able to neutralize those particular virus particles. So based on that, they will say whether this is in the 70th percentile or 91st percentile or 92% efficacious against that virus. So they're working day and night, scientists in their labs so that people can lead a normal life. So we should believe science.
My mom, even yesterday, she's like, oh my gosh, you got the Johnson and Johnson. You only got one shot. I got 2 shots. So I'm more immune than you. You're going to get COVID. Please be careful. My mom is freaking out. And I keep telling her, Mom, I don't think that's how vaccines work. I think the Johnson and Johnson is going to be just as effective, you know, as the one. It doesn't matter if it's 1 shot or 2 shots, but I would like to ask you, is there a difference between the 1 shot, 2 shot? Is there anything about
gave 1 shot of Johnson and Johnson vaccine to several cohorts, double-blinded cohorts, and they saw that they had the same amount of response, and that response lasted for a number of weeks or months. And that's why they said that, you know, you don't require a booster in this. I mean, they could change. I mean, they will follow these people for a longer period of time and then say, okay, well, it has gone down and there's a new strain which has come, so you may want to get another shot. So right now, that is why you should believe that they shouldn't get confused that they, you know, CDC keeps changing or so that's what it is. It's like everything is happening in real time. So what is the best data the scientific community is offering or they have to share, they're giving it to the people, but the people who are skeptical and who want to spread conspiracy theories, you know, they will try to confuse you because they say, oh, well, they said this. Because it's very easy for me to, you know, say something completely nonsensical and sound like, you know, I'm like coming from a right place. So there are several people like that. So, I mean, but what does they have their own data? So.
Can you answer her question about the AstraZeneca vaccine and how it's less effective against the variant in India? Like, is that true? Is it just...
I don't know. I'll have to look up. I haven't read that report yet, but
okay.
Mrna and Pfizer, I've read that's equally effective. But
And I think Dr. Soni touched on something very important. This is happening in real time. So just because one newspaper article or some Facebook feed or something may have reported that one thing may not be as effective or whatnot, it could be because lack of data. And there, as more data continues to present itself, trends are going to change. More things are going to come into the visibility. And I think right now, we are in a very sensitive time where we also have to be willing to move
yeah,
with the way that science is progressing as we continue to vaccinate
Yep.
more people, get more data and whatnot, right?
and
I remember when I went,
you have
sorry, Dr. Go ahead.
it is your life, there are so many people who died. You see that, even in the US, they came out that so many people have died. 600,000 have died. Okay, so this is not like a light topic, and then you cannot keep on pointing fingers. You have to take it very seriously. So that is why you should devote good amount of time reading the right amount of the research and then discussing it. This is a good forum. This is a way to discuss and shatter beliefs or disbelief. I wish more people would have joined because it's helpful for people to know. And
They
like
will see this. We usually get lots, if they're not in the live, they'll join, like they'll watch it at their own convenience and this information will be around, right? Like, so now it's there. Now you debunk some of the things that people have thought. Hopefully people will get vaccinated and reconsider, their own preconceived notions on why. Like, honestly, Desi people, smart people, tech people, science people are not getting vaccinated in the Bay Area. And so I'm coming from a space of like, what is it? What are your questions? And hopefully I've asked some of those questions for
yeah,
them and you've answered them. Um, with that, I think we should we've taken up a lot of time. So just wrap up a little bit, you know, how has it been for you, working as an essential worker during the pandemic and having to hear a lot of this and maybe have to have these conversations with patients or people like what's that has that happened to you?
yes. I mean, when it hit, we had to take it from a very quick decisions had to be made by all of us. We didn't have PPP. We did not have N95 masks. We did not want, so that was one, to protect yourself, protect your workers, protect the public, and still do the testing. So all those issues had to be tackled simultaneously within one day. Decisions had to be made and we had to follow the guidelines. So we were under lockdown. Our testing had to be diverted to reference labs. Only one worker was allowed and only for a part-time. And that person, I got her vaccinated as quickly as possible and
Mm-hmm.
vaccine to all the people who wanted to have it. There's still one person in my lab who has not taken it. I mean, there are some nurses and even lab techs who don't want to take the vaccine. But but it has not been made mandatory by the government that employers have to insist on vaccination. But I
Have you
think,
have you tried to talk to them about getting vaccinated and they don't
I
want to?
I mean, and one person actually was totally adamant, but she did get vaccinated after I spoke to her. And the other person is allergic. So, to certain things. So, like that's another myth which people have. People who have known anaphylactic reactions and they use EpiPens and stuff like that. Only in those cases it's contraindicated. And if when you took the vaccine, they made you wait for 30 minutes, right? Over
Mm-hmm.
there. So that was the only reason, so that you do not get an anaphylactic shock or anaphylactic reaction which needs to be immediately handled. But the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines, they only have a lipid envelope and they have some saline. So they really don't have anything which would actually cause allergic reactions like adjuvants and some stabilizing agents and stuff like that. So
Right.
so then we had to work. I mean, so family, friends, and people all over in India. I mean, I was so worried because it was spreading like wildfire over there. And my mother's not vaccinated. She's bedridden. She's at home, and they haven't come to give her a vaccine. Her nurses finally vaccinated. My son is not fully vaccinated there. So, all those issues, and then we have doctors in our hospital also, one or two of them who have not been vaccinated. They don't want to be vaccinated.
Hmm.
So you have to be careful even in the doctor's lounge. Just relax and talk. You have to keep
Hmm.
us.
So it permeates every level. It's not just,
Yeah.
it's not just like, oh, people who don't understand the science. It's like it's from the top down. Like every level of socioeconomic strata is kind of facing these
Yes.
people who don't want to get vaccinated. That's pretty crazy. I wouldn't have thought a doctor didn't want to get vaccinated. So, or a nurse. I
With
did
that
hear,
being said,
sorry, go ahead.
I do want to, just before we wrap up one final time, again, Dr. Soni, thank you so much for coming to our live. Truly honored to be in your presence today and for you to educate us. I mean, I am truly just so thankful because a lot of questions I had, you answered, and knowing that you are an expert in this field and for our viewers.
Not an expert in virology now, but although I have studied viruses and I've actually worked in the lab and I've worked with vectors and worked with cell lines and stuff. So I understand the science. So I believe it, but I don't make decisions, public health decisions, but I can guide you, from
Mm-hmm.
Of course. And we understand that. And I think, again, kind of going into the fact that, be sure to follow CDC, check out, reliable resources to get your information. And if you don't have questions, ask people like Dr. Soni who may have some knowledge or experience about the subject matter, and then make your informed decisions. But with that being said, one final time, we would love for you if you can give any last minute advice in terms of, especially with this Delta variant that might be kind of coming to the US, and or even like our relatives in India. Is there any advice you think we should be able to say or practice so that we can prepare, and then of course how people, if they're interested to support you or get in contact with you, how would be the best way to do that, and be able to communicate with you further?
I think if people have misinformation and they tell you should stop it right there and tell them, this is not right. It's a matter of life. And you see the numbers all around the world. Secondly, you have to thank the current administration, President Biden. He's purchased so many vaccines and he's trying to distribute them to countries who are lagging behind. So it's a game, it's a race, We have to reach herd immunity. We have to reach global herd immunity. So we should think from that perspective, and that's how they are thinking now. So that would be more helpful. Don't think only about yourself. So if a person says, I don't want to get, I am like good, I have good genes and good immunity. So that person is thinking only for themselves, So that is what you stop. You have to tell them, please don't do that. And just help out and just watch what help is needed in India. I mean, try to help. There are so many organizations right now, you can help those people. The poor people are really suffering. So my sister, actually, she sits on the phone. My son sits on the phone and tries to get people around in the neighborhood, get on the list to get vaccinated. I wish I could do that, sitting here. You girls think of anything, you let me know, and then I would love to participate in that.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Monita, for coming on this live. I know it was so last minute almost, but I'm very happy because you've given us so much information. And you can actually find her on her public Instagram account, which is voracious_book lover. And if you don't know how to spell that, just look it up on Google because I don't want to spell right now, but it's voracious_book lover. Thank you again, Monita. Thank you, thank you, thank you. She's also written a lot for India Currents. She's a force. Please go find her on indiacurrents.com if you're interested in her very good critique of cultural, like Bollywood films and all these other things that she thinks about because she's thinking about it all. So thank you again. You can click that X button at the top.
Thank you.
And
I love you, and you're doing excellent work. And I think energy level is so good that I feel young talking to you.
She has a young daughter. She doesn't need us.
Yeah. I do. I need young energy around me. She's very helpful. She helped me today. to set up this live video
Oh,
that
that's amazing. Yes. I was gonna say you figured it out. It was so easy for you. And sometimes we have to like train people how to use it. So I'm very glad you had your daughter around. All
yeah.
right, you can click that X button so we can just also end the live soon because we have a 1 hour limit and I think we're almost at that 1 hour. All right. So, wow, so much information. I feel
So
more
much
well informed.
information. And I just have to say, like, I am just so, I can't say, like, I'm so thankful and honored that, Monita was able to join us and just drop all of that knowledge. I believe one thing for sure, like the definition of science is that which is a fact, and so for me, I think that, being scientists, coming from a scientific community, it is important for us to be, you know, guiding people to resources like Monita. So thank you so much for connecting the dots here. And guys, if you're trying to help or be supporting of a cause, India Currents has been on top of its game, coming up with resource lists, producing articles for all of the viewers to read and inform yourselves, and of course, other ways of being able to contact family, friends in India and support them, whether it's financial support or whatever that looks like, oxygen and whatnot. So definitely check out, especially in the
Yeah.
Insta story, what India Currents is posting.
Well,
But
if
yeah,
you just go to
beautiful.
I want to just drop some info for people. IndiaCurrents.com right now has information on vaccines by a Pfizer expert. If you just type in vaccine Pfizer, you'll find a lot of information on vaccines on India Currents. If you're interested in how you can help the cause in India, there are multiple organizations working on this. I've written one article, but I also know that there are youth in our community that are connecting the dots with people in India and delivering services. So if you just look up COVID India, again, search it on indiacurrents.com. There's a lot of information. I get a lot of questions like, how can I support? A lot of resources like masks, ventilators, oxygen. Give India is doing a lot right now. I know there's Hemkant Foundation. There's a lot of different foundations. My article specifically will give you a resource list. You can just click on that link and then decide who you want to donate to. COVID in India is not over. Just FYI for everyone. I feel like when the middle class and the upper class kind of get over they kind of were hit first, and that's why you heard so much, but people of the lower socioeconomic strata in India are very, very hard hit still. South India is dealing with it even more right now. I guess it kind of transitioned over there. So please consider, the COVID crisis in India is not over. Continue to speak about it, continue to donate, continue to think about how there is going to be a fourth wave here as well. So what can you do to be prepared? Get your kids vaccinated, get yourself vaccinated, continue wearing masks, and I think that's all the knowledge I can drop.
I
I
gotta
hope
wear
that's
that
helpful.
mask thing. I'm gonna be honest. Haven't been wearing my mask like I should be. Haven't been. And I am disappointed in myself, but I'm going to make sure I keep up with the practice. I know a lot of us hate wearing the mask, but I think it is important that we do so. And I think the most frustrating part for me is just knowing that I'm at University of Florida, big research institute. We are one of the first people to get rid of the mask. And I remember there was a professor who wrote an article to the department saying, hey, can we still administer masks if students are sitting around? And they literally said, no,
Oh
we're
my
not
God.
going to support that, even though we are a scientific community. So it's crazy. It blows my mind. But again, common sense, as Monita was saying, and I'm gonna need to tap into that common sense.
Hey, and the other thing is, I'm glad you admitted that, because guess what? You got informed during this live, and then you said, hey, I've been doing something that I probably can change. And no one should shame you for it. Maybe you had different information. Now you have more information. That is science. It's always changing with more information. So definitely wear your mask if you can. I still continue to wear my mask too. So with that, I think we should end this live. I think we're at almost the 1 hour mark, and we're gonna get kicked off. So
I'm so excited for our upcoming weeks. If you enjoyed this, I know you brown, you like your science, so be sure to tap in. Coming up in the future weeks, we talked about medical science this week. We're going to be talking about energy, nuclear energy, and all of that coming up. And then, of course, artificial intelligence, deep learning, all of that stuff. Okay,
I don't
coming
know
up.
anything about that, so I'm very excited.
I'm
All
excited too.
right.
So, tap in. Peace and love, everybody.
Bye, Yashu.